Hello, good morning. My name is Episcopus Squirrel, also known as Alchemage. And this morning, I'm going to talk to you about the world's very first truly genetically modified cannabis plant. So, first, a little refresher course on what genetic modification is. Genetic modification is the addition and introduction of foreign genetic material to another organism. That's the word. So, again, genetic modification is taking genes, DNA, and putting it into an organism where it typically would not be found. A commonly known example of this, a very controversial form of this, is what Monsanto has done, creating crops that are creating their own pesticides by inserting a Bt toxin gene into different crops. There's also the fortification of different grains with folate or folic acid, or maybe it's B12. I can't remember. But we're fortifying foods as well, not just, creating things that are just more resilient to pests, but rather we're also fortifying things to be able to help people get more nutrients and minerals where before they would be lacking due to all kinds of environmental factors. But this video is not, I want to make a quick disclaimer before I go any further. This video is not a video that is meant to condone or to condemn the practices of genetic modification of organisms in order to produce something new. So, that said, I'm going to take a drink of my smoothie. Don't feel like doing extra dishes. That's extra water to waste. Why do that? So anywho, Trait Biosciences, a cannabis company, I can't remember where they're located. Trait Biosciences has produced a new line of cannabis and cannabis products. The first one that was successful was Trait Amplified. Trait Amplified refers to the cannabis plant that Trait Biosciences produced that will, I shouldn't have said produced. I have to say produced twice. This is the cannabis plant that Trait Biosciences created. Really, they created this new cannabis plant, and they have a patent on it as well. But what's unique about this cannabis plant is that it produces water-soluble cannabinoids. Yes, cannabinoids that dissolve in water. Typically, for those who are unaware, cannabinoids, because of their polarity, only dissolve in fats. And this is because cannabinoids are typically nonpolar. Fats and oils are also nonpolar. So solubility really relies on the polarity of a compound, like dissolves like. It's really important to know when working on making different kinds of extracts. So, that said, Trait Biosciences has teamed up, now has Dr. Sayers, an incredibly intelligent individual who has made a lot of work within the field of harnessing electricity from algae, is now in the cannabis industry working with Trait Biosciences to produce these different GM plants. So what is the purpose of making water-soluble cannabinoids? Well, myself as an extract producer, tinctures and so forth, I can be the first to tell you that that's a lot easier to make an extract. You can now simply just steam distill cannabis and get the cannabinoids out of it because they're water soluble. Therefore, the compounds actually, I retract that statement because I don't know how volatile they are. I don't know if that changes the volatility. Because just because something is water soluble doesn't mean that it's going to distill over, such as salt. Yeah, no, that doesn't. No, I don't know the volatility, so excuse that last statement. Where that thought train came from is the fact that Trait has put out another line of products called Trait Distilled. And this is from their water-soluble cannabinoid. They're cannabis plants producing water-soluble cannabinoids. They've created Trait Distilled. This is a line of products which are all edible and drinkable products that are much easier to extract since you're just using water. You don't have to use harsh chemicals like heptane and butane and all these other propane and just, CO2 is great, but you don't have to use all that to get these cannabinoids anymore. And so, to me, what's interesting is the science behind what's going on and how they did it. Basically, there has been research that has shown that cannabinoids and concentration will kill cannabis plant cells. So this is why cannabis only produces THC and other cannabinoids within the what do they call it? The trichomes of the plant. Because if they were to produce them throughout the rest of the plant, it could, harm the plant. It would interrupt and interfere with different processes that would keep it alive. So, Dr. Sayers, who is the chief officer of science over at Trait Biosciences, has worked with his team in order to... Okay, so I've got a little bit of this written down here so I got some notes. So basically what his team has done, what this team has done, Dr. Sayers' team, they've used a mutant gene for producing a enzyme called cytochrome P450. It's the same enzyme that our liver produces in order to break down and metabolize drugs within the body, as well as a glycosyltransferase enzyme. Also a glycosyltransferase enzyme. In order to, they're using these two genes to attach into the genetic material of the cannabis plant and produce water-soluble cannabinoids. However, what's going on is the glycosyltransferase binds to the cannabinoid and attaches a simple sugar. By attaching this simple sugar to the cannabinoid is now effectively changed in polarity, going from nonpolar to polar. For those who are unaware, water is very polar. You have the oxygen and then two hydrogens, which creates this dipole of negative and positive pull. So you have charge that's different. That's what polarity is. Polarity is where you have a positive and a negative end on a molecule. And so by effectively changing the polarity, it now becomes water soluble. But another effect of doing this to the cannabinoids is that you begin to detoxify the process of creating these cannabinoids, thereby allowing the cannabis plant to produce cannabinoids throughout the entire plant, throughout the leaves, throughout the stalks, throughout the roots, throughout the stems, throughout all of it. The entire plant produces cannabinoids through the entire grow. So, because of this, you're able to create a perpetual grow cycle where you can keep a plant under the correct lighting, which is, I think it's 14 on, 10 off is the minimum to be able to, or wait, that's not right. 14 and 8, right? No, it's 14 and 10. Yeah. I'm not very good at math, just in my head. So, by keeping the plant in a perpetual veg cycle, you can keep this plant growing almost infinitesimally and create a continual harvest where you are pulling leaves and stems and extracting the cannabinoids from these parts so that you can keep it growing. You can keep it pushing out, keep it growing. So that's amazing. That's incredible. We don't have to wait until a plant gets all the way into flower to be able to produce its cannabinoids. It's some of the more medicinal compounds within the cannabis plant. So that's phenomenal. There are a few other lines that Trait Biosciences has worked on. I'm not really sure of the names, but they've created, the typical plants that are more pest resilient, more fungal resilient. But then they're also creating hemp that they promise will produce 0 THC every single time, guaranteed. It's amazing. Basically, they've gone in and knocked out the gene that allows cannabis to produce THC, but not the other cannabinoids. So that's amazing. That's awesome. Let's see here. What else have they made? They've made a cannabis plant that will pump out 1-to-1 THC to CBD every single time. And they've also made another one that pumps out 30% THC every single time. That's mind-blowing. Whoa, that's crazy. So, to me, these breakthroughs are incredible. And, again, I'm not here to say whether or not they're good or bad, because that's not what this video is about. This video is just informational. But one of the things I like to keep in mind is that a lot of our genetic engineering has been done at the hands of very manipulative, gene manipulative, very manipulative and greedy corporations. So, I don't know much about Trait Biosciences, so I can't really comment on it, whether or not what they're doing is purely for profit, or if they're trying to help, or what's going on. So, I'd love to hear what your opinion is. I'm always open and If I missed something or have misspoken in any way, please correct me. Let me know. You know, I'm always here to learn and be able to admit my mistakes. So, thank you from stopping by today, and I hope that you have learned something. And yeah, have a great day.